Chuck Norris has never been the kind of man who speaks louder than he acts. Whether he was roundhouse-kicking villains on Walker, Texas Ranger, or breaking boards in real life, Norris established himself as a calm, respectful figure who kept his personal opinions private. He avoided Hollywood drama, preferring to let his work speak for itself. But recently, in a dramatic and tearful moment, he broke his long-held silence, and what he revealed stunned fans. For the first time ever, Norris openly spoke out against 5 actors he deeply detests. For a man known for his professionalism, the revelation was both unexpected and powerful. After decades of silence, the martial arts legend decided it was finally time to set the record straight. This raises the question, what pushed Norris to this breaking point, and who are the actors who riled him up? Born on March 10, 1940, in Ryan, Oklahoma, Chuck Norris came from humble beginnings. His mother, Wilma, was of Irish descent, and his father, Ray D. Norris, was Cherokee. Ray, a World War II veteran, held many jobs, including mechanic and bus driver. Chuck was the oldest of 3 brothers, and tragedy struck early when his younger brother Whelan died during the Vietnam War in 1970. Just as he had once predicted, he wouldn't live past 27. After his parents' divorce when Chuck was 16, he moved with his mother and brothers to Prairie Village, Kansas, and later to Torrance, California. Norris described his childhood as difficult. He was shy, not athletic, and just an average student. His father's frequent drinking sprees made home life even more turbulent, and as a result, Norris became introverted. In 1958, he enlisted in the U.S. Air Force and was deployed to South Korea, where he earned the nickname Chuck and discovered martial arts, Tang Soo Do, to be specific. He trained diligently and eventually earned a black belt. After returning to the U.S., he continued serving in California and opened his first martial arts studio while waiting for a police job. Although not immediately successful in competitions, Chuck began to rise in the martial arts world. By 1967, he was winning top tournaments and defeating big names like Joe Louis. He opened more karate schools and even taught celebrities such as Steve McQueen, Bob Barker, and Donny Osmond. After his final competitive loss in 1968, he won the middleweight karate championship and held the title for 6 consecutive years. He eventually retired undefeated and grew close to Bruce Lee, appearing as the antagonist in Way of the Dragon, 1972, which was a box office success and brought Norris into the public spotlight. Inspired by Steve McQueen, he took acting lessons and made his leading role debut in Breaker. 1977, followed by Good Guys Wear Black, 1978, which became a massive financial hit. Unlike the Hong Kong kung fu films popular at the time, Norris's movies were uniquely American in setting and story. In 1979, Norris starred in A Force of One, and in 1980, The Octagon, which brought in $19 million and finally gained studio interest. His momentum continued with An Eye for an Eye and Silent Rage, his first major studio production with Columbia Pictures. MGM signed him for 3 films, but he left due to creative differences. In 1983, Lone Wolf McQuade became a cult hit, earning praise from critics like Roger Ebert, who compared it to classic spaghetti westerns and gave it 3.5 stars. During this time, Norris released a fitness book and a video game, Chuck Norris Superkicks. His massive breakout came with Missing in Action, 1984, inspired by his late brother. He portrayed Colonel James Braddock, a Vietnam vet rescuing POWs. The film was a commercial success. He followed it with Code of Silence, 1985, hailed as one of his best performances. Successes like Missing in Action 2, Invasion USA, and The Delta Force, 1986, with Lee Marvin cemented his legacy as an American action hero. He even lent his voice to a cartoon series, Karate Commandos, and co-authored a best-selling self-help book, The Secret of Inner Strength, in 1987. On the personal front, Chuck married his high school sweetheart, Diane K. Holchek, in 1958. He was just 18, and she was 17. The couple met at school in Torrance and had their first son in 1962. A year later, Norris had a daughter from an affair, and in 1964, he and Diane had a second son, Eric. The couple eventually divorced after 30 years of marriage, officially parting ways in 1989 during the filming of Delta Force 2. On November 28, 1998, Norris married again, this time to model Gina O'Kelly, who was 23 years his junior. She had 2 children from a previous relationship, and together, they welcomed twins on August 30, 2001. In a 2004 interview with Entertainment Tonight, Norris shared a touching story. He didn't meet his daughter from the earlier affair until she was 26, even though she learned he was her father at 16. It wasn't until she sent him a heartfelt letter in 1990, shortly after his divorce, that they finally reunited and developed a relationship. By 2017, Norris had become a grandfather to 13 grandchildren. Despite a bumpy personal life, Norris has always strived to stay connected and take responsibility. Politically, Chuck Norris has long been a vocal conservative. He's written for the far-right website World Net Daily and supported Republican ideals for decades. Following the release of Missing in Action, Norris praised President Ronald Reagan for his candor and leadership, claiming he valued the individual more than the political party. During the filming of the Delta Force, Norris warned that the U.S. was being too lenient on terrorism, a statement that later seemed prescient. In 2007, he traveled to Iraq to support U.S. troops, and in 2008, he endorsed Republican presidential candidate Mike Huckabee while criticizing John McCain's age. Though he ultimately supported McCain for liking Sarah Palin, Norris also endorsed California's controversial Proposition 8, which banned same-sex marriage. The move generated backlash from LGBTQ+ groups and allies. In 2009, he questioned President Barack Obama's birthplace and demanded the release of his birth certificate, further fueling controversy. He continued publishing strong opinions on Sharia law, Boy Scout policies, and political figures. Over the years, he endorsed candidates like Ron Paul, Newt Gingrich, Mitt Romney, Ted Cruz, Roy Moore, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In 2019, he partnered with gun manufacturer Glock, angering some fans amid a wave of school shootings. In 2021, Norris supported the recall of California Governor Gavin Newsom and backed conservative talk show host Larry Elder as a replacement. Though his views have often sparked division, Norris has always stood firmly by his principles, no matter how unpopular. Chuck Norris countered his critics by claiming that the votes cast for Proposition 8 were never intended to strip any group of their rights, but rather to maintain certain beliefs about the traditional limits of marriage. He compared protests against the proposition's passage to acts of anarchy, arguing that supporters were simply defending their sincere values. Critics, however, argued that Norris's endorsement contributed to the marginalization of LGBTQ+ individuals and helped perpetuate discriminatory sentiment. The scandal highlighted the deep divisions in society regarding marriage equality and underscored the influence that public figures like Norris can have in shaping social and political debates. Despite the backlash, Norris remained firm in his stance, standing with conservative and religious groups that supported Proposition 8. Although the proposal was later declared unconstitutional in 2010, the controversy surrounding it emphasized the ongoing struggle for LGBTQ+ rights and recognition in the United States. Norris's involvement in the Proposition 8 debate remains a prime example of how celebrity endorsements can significantly influence civil rights discussions and public perception. Chuck Norris's television show Walker, Texas Ranger, 1993 to 2001, gained significant popularity for its action-packed scenes and portrayal of justice. However, it also faced criticism for glamorizing violence and law enforcement overreach. Detractors argued that the show romanticized vigilantism and excessive force, citing a 1993 review that pointed out a scene where Walker silences a suspect who wasn't read his Miranda rights with a brutal kick. This raised concerns about how such portrayals might shape real-world attitudes toward justice and policing. A 1995 UCLA study highlighted the show's frequent and graphic hand-to-hand combat, raising alarm about its potential influence on younger viewers. Norris defended the show, asserting that the violence was always framed within a moral context, stating, "There's a lot of action, but it's all done with a moral background. It's justice fighting injustice." Despite the controversy, Walker, Texas Ranger maintained a strong viewership, suggesting that its themes of good versus evil resonated with audiences. When Norris was named the most violent man on television during an ABC special, many felt misled by the show's deeper intentions. The Chuck Norris Facts trend began in early 2005 and quickly became an internet phenomenon. Although jokes about Norris's toughness had circulated since the 1980s, the viral craze truly took off on the Something Awful forums, where users initially mocked Vin Diesel following the release of the pacifier. Soon, the focus shifted to Norris, with outrageous and humorous claims about his strength and invincibility dominating the internet. These exaggerated jokes, reminiscent of the Bill Brasky sketch on Saturday Night Live, gained traction thanks in part to Conan O'Brien, who frequently joked about Norris's exploits on Walker, Texas Ranger. The movement became a major pop culture moment. Comedian Ian Spector is widely credited as the father of the trend, popularizing online generators and publishing books like The Truth About Chuck Norris, 400 Facts About the World's Greatest Human, 2007, and Chuck Norris vs. Mr. T, 400 Facts About the Baddest Dudes in the History of Ever, 2008. Norris responded to the jokes with grace, posting on his official website that while some of the facts were humorous, people should not take them too seriously. He hoped the jokes would inspire people to learn more about his real-life experiences, particularly those detailed in his books. In a 2006 column for WorldNet Daily, Norris again addressed the trend, this time humbly redirecting attention to his faith in God and Jesus Christ. However, the internet didn't always laugh with him. In December 2007, he sued Penguin USA, publisher of The Truth About Chuck Norris, alleging trademark infringement and invasion of privacy. He later dropped the lawsuit in 2008. Despite the legal hiccup, Norris leaned into the meme, co-authoring the official Chuck Norris Factbook in 2009. The trend endured for years, even appearing in pop culture through ads and films. In The Expendables 2, 2012, one character jokes that Norris was bitten by a cobra, and 5 days later, the cobra died. In 2017, a United Healthcare commercial featured two men joking about Norris's legendary toughness with the line, "Chuck Norris wears a hat to hide the sun behind." These moments reflect how Norris's online fame continues to live on. In a more serious turn, Norris and his wife, Gina Norris, made headlines in 2012 when she filed a lawsuit against multiple companies. Gina alleged that she was poisoned by gadolinium-based contrast agents, GBCAs, used during MRI procedures. After undergoing 3 MRIs in just 8 days, she began suffering severe symptoms, including a racing heart and burning sensations throughout her body. Despite repeated hospital visits, her condition did not improve. She eventually traveled to China for alternative treatments like chelation therapy and stem cell procedures. While her health saw some improvement, she continued to experience painful cramping in her hands and intense back pain. Gina described herself as feeling broken and held the companies responsible for allegedly concealing the risks associated with gadolinium. The case brought attention to the potential dangers of contrast agents in medical imaging and the broader issue of transparency in healthcare. Gadolinium is a heavy metal that can be harmful if it accumulates in the body. In general, MRI contrast dyes are engineered to prevent this from happening by using a chelating agent that binds to the gadolinium, allowing the body to eliminate it more easily through urine. These gadolinium-based contrast agents, GBCAs, were first used during MRI scans in 1988. However, it was later discovered that the body might not always be able to eliminate all the gadolinium, and it can build up in areas such as the brain, bones, and kidneys, even in people with normal kidney function. In 2015, the FDA issued a warning about the potential for gadolinium accumulation in the brain, though they later stated that there wasn't sufficient evidence to prove this buildup causes health damage. Still, the idea of something remaining in the brain besides thoughts is unsettling to many. Research has linked gadolinium contrast agents to potential issues such as kidney failure, pancreatitis, and neurological problems in both animals and humans. Despite these risks, GBCAs remain extremely useful in medical imaging, helping physicians detect issues in the body that might otherwise go unnoticed. The lawsuit filed by Gina Norris highlights these possible dangers and could lead to more studies or additional individuals filing similar complaints. Whether Gina Norris's case will succeed remains uncertain, but it may shed more light on the potential risks of GBCA use and prompt further investigation into their safety. Time will tell if more people come forward with similar experiences. In January 2021, right after the U.S. Capitol riot, a photo went viral online showing someone who closely resembled Chuck Norris among the crowd that stormed the Capitol. The internet exploded with speculation that the legendary action star had joined the rioters. But Chuck Norris quickly put the rumors to rest. He took to Twitter, saying he had recently learned that a Chuck Norris impersonator was at the D.C. riots, but it wasn't him. He clarified that he was not there and emphasized that he stands for law and order, condemning any form of violence. To back him up, his manager, Eric Kritzer, also spoke out, saying Chuck was nowhere near Washington, D.C. on that day. In fact, he was at his Texas ranch with his family. Kritzer even joked that the man in the viral photo was more handsome, clearly trying to lighten the mood. Eventually, the mystery man in the image was identified, and it definitely wasn't Norris. Still, by that time, the photo had been widely shared across social media, fueling wild theories. It was a classic case of mistaken identity, a problem that's become all too common in the digital age. This incident underscores how easily misinformation can spread online, especially when it involves celebrities. With viral images and snap judgments flying around platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, it's more important than ever to pause and verify the facts before jumping to conclusions. Even a legend like Chuck Norris isn't immune to false accusations, proving that in today's world, a little fact-checking goes a long way. Before Jean-Claude Van Damme became a household name in Hollywood, he had a long journey to stardom and an unexpected connection to Chuck Norris. In the 1980s, Van Damme was a young aspiring actor who had just moved to Los Angeles. Having run a gym in Brussels and done some modeling, he took a chance and flew to Hollywood. Like many struggling actors, he took on odd jobs, driving taxis, waiting tables, and taking small film roles. One of his earliest credited roles was as Gay Karate Man in the 1984 film Monaco Forever. He also had a role in the breakdancing film Breakin' the same year. One of his more surprising gigs was as a bouncer at a bar called Woody's Wharf, owned by none other than Chuck Norris. In a 2019 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Van Damme recalled the experience, laughing that American people were big, and he was fortunate never to get into a real fight. He said he relied on his charm and likability to keep the peace. Their early relationship seemed friendly, but reports suggested that things turned sour over time. Rumors circulated in the early 1990s about a possible movie collaboration between the two, but it never materialized, reportedly due to creative differences. Later, during a 2001 martial arts exhibition in Texas, Norris allegedly criticized Van Damme's discipline and work ethic, calling him undisciplined. Despite their differences, both went on to become massive action stars, even if they never shared the screen. Their early connection remains a fascinating footnote in martial arts movie history. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, a notable feud erupted between Steven Seagal and several prominent figures in the martial arts community, including Chuck Norris. The conflict began when Seagal made dismissive comments about Bruce Lee and Norris, claiming that American martial artists lacked authenticity. He even said he would fight anyone who disagreed with him. Bob Wall, a close friend of both Lee and Norris, responded by assembling a group of 12 respected martial artists, nicknamed the Dirty Dozen, to publicly challenge Seagal. This group included legends like Benny Urquidez, Bill Wallace, and Gene LeBell. Despite the public challenge, Seagal refused to engage. Some in the martial arts community saw the challenge as an overreaction, while others believed it was necessary to uphold the values of respect and authenticity. Though no fights ever occurred, the incident remains a memorable chapter in martial arts history, reflecting the community's willingness to defend its core principles. Chuck Norris and Alec Baldwin may both be iconic Hollywood figures, but politically, they're worlds apart. Norris is known for his strong conservative views and has openly supported Republican candidates like Mike Huckabee, Mitt Romney, and Donald Trump. He's written blog posts, filmed endorsements, and delivered speeches encouraging Americans to return to what he considers traditional values. So when someone mocks those beliefs on national television, especially in a humorous way, it's bound to create tension. Enter Alec Baldwin, a prominent liberal actor who spent years portraying Donald Trump on Saturday Night Live. His exaggerated impersonation, with flamboyant gestures and dramatic expressions, was loved by some and loathed by others. Chuck Norris, unsurprisingly, was not amused. In a 2017 blog post, Norris didn't mention Baldwin by name, but he criticized Hollywood elites who mock American values and warned of the damage such portrayals could have on national unity and morals. Many linked this directly to Baldwin's Trump impressions. Baldwin never responded publicly, but the ideological clash between the two highlights the growing divide in Hollywood, where political disagreements can be just as fierce as rivalries on screen. Chuck Norris and Shia LaBeouf also reportedly clashed, though details remain vague. In the late 2010s, both were involved in a commercial production, but sources claimed Norris was displeased with LaBeouf's on-set behavior. Known for his intense method acting and often unpredictable personality, LaBeouf's demeanor was seen as disrespectful by Norris, who is famous for his discipline and professionalism. In 2020, Norris posted on Facebook, "Fame without discipline is chaos." Though he didn't mention LaBeouf by name, many fans interpreted it as a jab at the actor, especially given LaBeouf's history of erratic behavior, legal troubles, and emotional outbursts. Chuck Norris has long championed values such as respect, diligence, and self-control, qualities he sees as essential both in martial arts and in life. In contrast, LaBeouf has carved out a reputation for being emotionally raw and unfiltered, both on and off the screen. This stark difference in work ethic and personality likely contributed to their reported friction. Though neither actor has spoken publicly about the incident since, the rumored feud serves as a reminder of how generational and cultural differences can lead to tensions in Hollywood. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Chuck Norris's Hollywood rivalries, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you never miss one of our videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.